Defend yourself against DDoS attacks by hiding your true IP address with ExpressVPN, and visit my custom link expressvpn.com/ghilliemaster in the description to find out how you can get an extra 3 months free. Since the Doomsday Heist has some bonuses tied to it this week, I decided, you know what, I'm going to play through the entirety of Act 3 from start to finish, doing all of the preps and setup missions with a full squad of players. And let me just say, if you have insomnia, if you find it hard to fall asleep, do this. Do Act 3 because I guarantee you some of the gameplay will have you fast asleep in no time. It's been a while since I've done a Doomsday Heist in its entirety, and my god, was this a good reminder as to why I haven't. The heist in terms of gameplay is just super outdated by today's standards, and the pay for the time you put in I still don't think is enough to warrant even doing the heist at all. And that's even while it has boosted payouts from the summer update and from this event week. I'm going to be making a lot of comparisons to mainly the Caprico heist because I believe that is the gold standard in terms of how a heist should be set up for player choice and how a player wants to go about completing it themselves. Even though the casino heist is still my favorite heist, I still need to give props where it's due to the Caprico heist for the freedom it has. So just in terms of the prep missions and setup missions required for the heist, the Doomsday Act 3 heist requires you to complete 6 prep missions in free mode, and then you have to complete an additional 5 setup missions that take place outside of free mode that require an additional player to complete as well. You can't do them solo. And we'll get into the missions themselves a bit later, but for the time being, I'll just say this. Some of these setup missions take as long as the entire heist finales themselves to complete. But that totals up to 11 different prep and setup missions you need to complete before even starting the heist. 11 different missions you have to do. Let's compare that to the Caprico heist, where you have the initial scope out. That is honestly probably the longest part of the prep for the Caprico heist itself, and that will vary in time to complete depending on how efficient you are and how much you decide to scope out on the island. But after that, you only have a total of 5 prep missions minimum that you have to complete before you can start the heist: the approach vehicle, safe code or plasma cutter, fingerprint cloner, cutting torch, and unmarked weapons, and that's it. They're done entirely in free mode. You don't have to go to a separate lobby to do them, and can be done completely solo. So only 6 preps if you include the scope out needed to start the heist, compared to 11 preps and setups needed to start the Act 3 finale. I think you can see where I'm starting to get at here. And now let's discuss those specific setup missions, because these missions are some of the most boring content in the entire game, filled with the most boring gameplay that is designed just to be a waste of time for no reason. I would almost argue some of this is worse than the post-upsell missions. And there are multiple examples of this in just this one heist. So first of all, Rescue Agent 14. The mission itself is actually kind of difficult once the Invisible Juggernauts come out to play. So there's that. Already it's a difficult mission if your heist squad isn't top tier, but after you rescue Agent 14 and get him in the helicopter, you have to then fly the Akula all the way across the map to Sandy Shores. And it's like, why? What is the purpose of making us fly all the way out to the desert from the docks? It's a good 2 or so minutes extra just tacked on to an already challenging mission to make it even longer than it already is. Then we have Escort ULP, and oh my god, this mission is the single most boring, insomnia-curing, mind-numbing, gray hair-growing mission in the entire game. It really is. It is just designed to take the most amount of time possible and just suck the fun right out of the game. Nothing else. And the only thing you're doing in this mission is parking the ballistic missile launcher in various points and blowing up waves and waves of helicopters that keep spawning in. ULP is in the fucking havoc. It's one of the faster, more agile choppers in the entire game, but for some reason he flies it so slow that the mission would honestly be faster if he had landed the helicopter on the freeway and had me pick him up on a tandem bicycle and then we pedaled all the way to the fucking objective. I'm not even joking, that would probably be faster than him flying the helicopter. There's nothing interesting or fun about the enemies either. It's just waves of the same 2 Valkyries that spawn in over and over and over and over. It's enough to put you to sleep. This mission alone took like 15 minutes to complete. Most heist finales take less time than that to complete. And the worst part is that there's no way to make the mission faster because it's all dependent on how fast ULP moves, or I should say how slow he moves. So no matter what you do, you're sitting there blasting helicopters for 15 minutes straight until he gets to the landing zone. Just an awful mission that, especially by today's standards, makes me never want to do this heist ever again. The mission for the barrage, I honestly don't really have too many complaints about. That one's not too bad. It's the tank mission where we again see some more mind-numbing gameplay where they make you drive a slow tank 5 miles. So once you grab the tank, you have to take it to the Zancudo swamps, and on the way, enemies will attack you. They'll send some hunters after you, which is fun for a bit to take those out. But eventually, you'll take them all out, and no more enemies will spawn in, aside from some regular old SUVs, which are not even obstacles when you have a tank. All you have to do is blast them. And they make you drive this vehicle all the way over there at the slow speed of the tank, going like 30 miles an hour. Just the most boring gameplay ever. Why aren't we driving this vehicle to Grapeseed, where the vehicles actually spawn in on the finale, instead of the Zancudo swamps? And you know it's bad when 3 minutes of the mission is you stealing the tank and 5 minutes is you driving it to the destination. It just should not be like that. Or if it is going to be like that, then at least send a ton of enemies after me through the entire getaway like the hunters the entire time. So I'm actually doing stuff instead of just holding down the accelerator and moving 30 miles an hour. And when you think about it, it's pointless why we even have to grab 2 getaway vehicles. We should just have the option of, hey, you can either choose the Ghillie or the barrage to get, and whichever one you choose, that's the only setup and prep mission that you have to do to get that one vehicle. Why we have to grab both if we're not using both on the finale is kind of fucking stupid. Again, just no player choice on this heist. It's just so outdated. And finally, we have the volatile mission, which again, I don't think is really that bad, except for the fact that the gun turrets on the volatile and babushka are still broken for like 4 years now, and they can only fire in one specific angle, so in the gunner seat, you're basically useless. That entire aspect of the mission just does not work. Lastly, there's the finale, which is the longest heist finale in GTA Online with an elite challenge timer of under 30 minutes. It took us 24 minutes to complete this, and in the end, I made just under $2 million with a 4-man squad, and that's with the boosted payouts for Doomsday this week. In total, the entire heist took us about 2.5 hours to complete, give or take 10 minutes. And if I were to be doing a Cayo Perico heist instead, I would have made a few $100,000 less than what I did here. Mind you, with no boosted payouts at all in just an hour of gameplay. Let that sink in. If that doesn't show you how bad the Doomsday heist is and just how outdated it is, then I don't know what will. And I think the main deterrent isn't only the payout, it's just the missions themselves are not fun. If you have super boring missions, people aren't going to want to play them. But if you have super boring missions and shit pay on top of that, then no one is going to want to play them. It's the same exact reason why I can't stand doing MC businesses anymore, despite them getting an increased payout. I just cannot bring myself to do the sell missions. They're just the most boring, tedious tasks in the world. And then on top of that, there are also just much better alternatives than MC businesses to make money nowadays, so there's no point to doing them. And unfortunately, the Doomsday falls into that same trap. Outdated gameplay, outdated payouts, even after the buff. I think a couple of changes that could be made to improve Doomsday for at least Act 3 would be to let us only choose one vehicle mission to do either the barrage or the Ghillie and not both if we're only going to be using one vehicle. Speed up ULP by a major amount on his setup mission. There's no reason he needs to go that slow. And then just tweak some of the drop-off points to lessen the amount of tedious driving you have to do. I think that would go a long way. It's obviously never going to get to the point of Cayo since it's always been designed to have more than one player, but it definitely could be improved to bring it up to like 2022 gameplay standards. But as of right now, I don't see myself ever doing the Doomsday heist ever again unless they have another type of Clifford hoodie behind it. That's the only reason I did this is for the Clifford hoodie. But those are my thoughts on the Doomsday heist in 2022 after completing it. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Do you also feel that the Doomsday heist is very outdated? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, feel free to leave a like as well as subscribe to my channel for more GTA Online content. I want to give a huge shout out to all my channel members for your support. If you'd like to become a member for some exclusive perks, you can either use the join button or the link that's down in the description. And as always, thanks for watching and have a great day. God, I don't even get paid for that either. Because I'm the host, I don't get paid for that. Alright, I need to splash some water on my face because I was just falling asleep doing that mission. Rather deliver the EMT with randoms and do this? You might have to call an EMT to fucking revive my dead ass body after doing that mission. Jesus Christ.